This is yin. These are conversations about discipline, direction, and identity, and how they quietly shape who you become. If you care about moving through life with intention, you're in the right place. If you're not there yet, but you want to be, stay. But if you're looking for shortcuts, noise, or motivation without responsibility, this isn't for you. And that's by design. Now, for those of you who are still here, this is where the work begins. You see, there's a version of your life that never gets built, not because you aren't capable, not because you don't have the talent or the vision or the opportunities, but because at some point along the way, you got comfortable, and comfortable felt so good, so earned, you justified it. And then you stopped moving. And you see, that's the problem, because that's more dangerous than anything else. You justified the comfort and started calling it peace. And that's the game comfort plays on you. And it's one of the most sophisticated games there is because it doesn't show up looking like a threat. It doesn't announce itself. Comfort arrives quietly. It arrives looking like wisdom. It sounds like, I've worked hard for this. I deserve a break. It sounds like, I'll make the move when the timing is right. It sounds measured. It sounds like someone who has figured something out. And that's precisely why comfort is so costly. Because when something feels like peace, you stop questioning it. You stop looking at it closely. You just settle in. And the longer you settle, the more normal it becomes. The more normal it becomes, the harder it is to see. And before long, what started as a pause has become a permanent address. That is what we're talking about today. Not the dramatic version of comfort, not the person who gave up entirely and checked out. We're talking about the subtle version, the version that looks like stability, the version that looks like you have your life together, the version that is hardest to confront. Because from the outside, it doesn't look like a problem at all. But here's what I want you to sit with before we go any further. Comfort is not neutral. Staying where you are is not the same as breaking even. And the absence of visible loss does not mean nothing is being taken from you. We're going to get into all of that, but I want you to come into this conversation with the premise already in mind. Because if you walk away from today thinking comfort is just something to manage, you've missed the point. Comfort, when it becomes a destination, is one of the most expensive decisions a person can make. And most people are making it every single day without realizing. Which brings me to the question I want you to carry through this conversation. What is staying comfortable actually costing you? Not what it could cost you someday, not in theory, not in the abstract. What is it costing you right now in real, concrete, measurable terms? I want you to sit with that question and resist the urge to rush past it. Because most people, when they hear a question like that, immediately go to outcomes. They think about the business they haven't started, the conversation they haven't had, the move they haven't made. And don't get me wrong, those things matter, but they are not the deepest cost. The deepest cost of staying comfortable is not what you haven't built on the outside, it's what you're losing on the inside. And here's what I mean. Comfort costs you real things. It costs you your dreams. Not all at once. That would be too obvious. It happens slowly. You wake up one day and you realize the things you used to talk about, the things that used to get you excited, you no longer mention. Not because they stopped mattering, but because staying comfortable required you stop chasing them. And somewhere along the way, the dream got quiet. It cost you the life you actually want to build. That version of your life, the one you can see clearly when you're being honest with yourself. It doesn't build itself. It requires a decision that makes you uncomfortable. It requires you to move before you're ready, before it's guaranteed, before it's safe. And every day you choose comfort over that, the gap between where you are and where you want to be gets wider. And more importantly, it costs you time, which is the one thing you cannot get back. You can rebuild money, you can rebuild relationships, you can restart a business, but the time you spent sitting in comfort is already gone. And that's not meant to scare you. It's meant to make this real because most people don't take comfort seriously and don't see it as a threat until they're looking back at the years they can't reclaim. So when I ask you, what is comfort costing you? That's what I mean. Not something abstract. Your dreams, the life you want, and time. Now, once people sit with that, once that actually lands, the next thing that comes up is usually a defense. And I want to address that directly because it's a valid one. And the defense sounds like this: but I need rest. I've been grinding. Taking a breath isn't the same as being comfortable. And you're right, it's not. Rest is real. Rest is necessary. The yin philosophy has never been about burning yourself into the ground. That is not strength. That's ego. Real discipline includes knowing when to recover. Rest is a tool. It is in the service of the work. But there's a difference between resting and hiding. And that difference is one of the most important distinctions you will ever make for yourself. Because these two things can look almost identical from the outside, and sometimes even from the inside. So let's break it down. Rest is intentional. Rest has a purpose and it has a return. You know when you are resting and you know what you're returning to. Rest restores you. It fills something back up so you can go further than you went before. When you are resting, the vision is still alive. The direction is still clear. You are just recovering the energy to keep moving forward. Hiding is different. Hiding is indefinite, not because you made a conscious choice to stop, but because the goal underneath everything is to avoid, to not have to face the version of the next step that feels too uncertain, too unfamiliar, too much like failure might be possible. Hiding is staying in a role you've outgrown because the next one hasn't guaranteed itself yet. Hiding is keeping a routine you already know isn't working because building a new one requires admitting the old one failed. Hiding is maintaining a version of yourself in a relationship, in business, in life that you already know is behind who you actually have become. Because stepping into who you are becoming means you now have to act like it. And acting like it makes the gap between where you are and where you need to be undeniable. That is the part that makes people uncomfortable. Not the change itself, the acknowledgement that the change is necessary. And here's the thing that makes hiding especially difficult to catch: it does not always look like inaction. You can be busy and hiding at the same time. You can be productive, executing consistently, hitting your targets, staying disciplined, all at a level beneath your actual capacity. And because you're moving, because you're doing things, it is very easy to tell yourself that that's what moving forward looks like. But real forward is uncomfortable by design. If everything in your current life feels manageable, if nothing you are doing is stretching you, nothing is testing you, nothing is pushing you to a place where you are genuinely uncertain about the outcome, that's not mastery. That is a ceiling you have stopped pushing on. So I'm asking you directly, and I want you to answer this honestly. Are you resting or are you hiding? Not the answer that sounds good, the one that is true, because the two things require completely different responses. Rest requires patience and trust. Hiding requires a decision. The people who build something real learn to move towards the discomfort instead of away from it. Not aggressively, not loudly, but quietly and deliberately. They stopped asking, how do I feel less uncomfortable? And started asking, what is this discomfort trying to tell me? And that's the shift. That's what separates those who are great from those who are average. Most successful individuals are able to handle extreme amounts of pressure and discomfort because they understand that if they're able to continue to push through, that they have a better chance of reaching their goals. Sitting in discomfort does not guarantee success, but sitting in comfort does guarantee that you will never push yourself hard enough to know what your true potential is. So, test yourself. I want to give you one thing to do this week. Pick one area of your life, just one, and ask yourself 3 questions. What am I not doing that I know I should be doing? And you already know the answer. What has staying comfortable in this area actually cost me? Be specific. Think about time, clarity, identity. Name it. And what is one action, not a plan, an actual action that I can take this week that moves me towards the discomfort instead of away from it? Write it down, put it on paper, and then execute. Not because conditions are perfect, but because you decided to, because that's what intentional people do. They act on a decision, not on a feeling. The next level of your life is not waiting on better timing. It's not waiting on more certainty. It's not waiting on someone to give you permission or a sign. It is waiting on a decision. And that decision lives on the other side of comfort you have been calling peace. Count the cost, then decide what you're actually willing to pay. This is yin. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not everyone, just someone who's ready. You can find Yin Worldwide Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you want to go deeper, visit our website at www.liveyin.com. That's www.liveyin.com. Subscribe if you're committed to the work. If not, that's fine too. This isn't for everyone. Remember, move with intention.